بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وأحسن الهدي هدي محمد وإن شر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. The outline for this class, first of all, a reminder. Secondly, continuation for the biography of the author, Shk.Abu rahimahullah. And afterwards, inshallah, we will make a start in the book. First of all, a reminder of the brothers who joined the class that we remind all our students to adhere to the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ by making sure that they are as close as possible. For the Messenger of Allah, he had seen the companion once when they were in a circle. He said to them, "Mali arakum izin, why do I see you scattered?" So, inna tafarruqakum hada min ash-shaytan. Verily, your scattering is from the act of the devil. It's the act of the Satan. So it is important for us to adhere to the Sunnah and get as close as possible with each other, body-wise, which will result, inshallah, in the heart-wise. That is why the Prophet of Allah, every time he would say, or before he says Allahu Akbar for Takbirat al-Ihram, he would make sure that the feet with the feet, shoulder with the shoulder, and no gaps. So, second element of this talk is going to be a continuation of the biography of Shk.Abu rahimahullah. There are things that I said I needed to address them in order to make sure that those people who are coming to listen to this class, they know the caliber of this magnitude of this Shaykh rahimahullah. So I start with some of those incidents that took place and the events with the Shaykh rahimahullah, to show how eager he was to gain the knowledge, and that would be inshallah a motivation for us to do the same, to thrive as well, to do the same. The Shaykh rahimahullah, he was known to be the most person who is keen to use his time properly and invest his time properly. He does not waste any moment. For the start, for example, he goes to his room where his library is to study there. His time for studying was almost 18 hours. Rahimahullah. 18 ساعة in his library. So while he's in his books, so hardly he sleeps, and in between he sees his wife. And that is why he had left for us this great treasure of books. I would call it treasure. And he had recorded in his last 20 years or so, not before that. Before that there was recordings, but were already lost, most of them. The recordings which the person called Abu Layla al-Athari, he had recorded more than 6,000 tapes. I, with my own eyes, I have seen more than 3,000 tapes. Now the ones you've got in your hands at the moment, they don't really exceed 1,000. So there's still there more than 5,000 tapes, cassette recorders, or recorded cassettes. Shk.Abu rahimahullah, in terms of his eagerness not to waste his time, because he was known for this. All the scholars who are scholars, they said, it's something special for the time-wise. And his patience. He comes to his room, his maktaba, his library, and the table that he goes to it, he has to go inside and then go behind the table. And there is a door that opens. And the door that when it opens, it locks his entrance to the table. He has to rotate all the way and then come to the table. Instead of going straight forward here, it will lock the entrance, which is straight forward, the door, and will make him rotate around the table, come behind the seat. So he went to the carpenter and he told him to do the door the other way around. The carpenter didn't understand why. He said, I don't want the door to open this way. I want the hinges to be transferred and to open that way. So he said, why? He said, just do it and I'll give you them and then I'll tell you why. So after he has done it, he just showed him practically that how many steps now I need to go to my desk. And then 1, 2, the third one here. Before, I have to block, with the door before that, it was to block this exit. I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to be there. A sixth one will be here. So I'll be saving between 4 or 5 steps, the Shaykh, he said. 4 or 5 steps, I got 5 daily prayers. 4 multiplied by 5 is 25. 25 steps, that's in a month, that's about 150 steps. In a year, so and so. How much time is going to be saving? Now the person will say, SubhanAllah, is that right? Yes, because every time he wants to pray, he has to do these steps. So Shaykh Rahmatullah Ali, he had even an engineer in design. He's got some chicken downstairs in the field, and he's invented, he's an innovator, invention innovated in the dunya, it's not the religion. He's against innovation, but he's an innovator in the dunya. He invented something that where he's sitting, he could just put the food of the chicken from there and he'd go all the way by the system of gravity until it reaches the chicken. They don't have to ask anybody for that. Shaykh Rahimahullah, when he used to fix the watches and he used to go to the Zahiriyya public library, he used to spend there in the library 6 to 8 hours. Those 6 or 8 hours, he's on top of the ladder. He's on top of the ladder. He's just reading because if he goes down, goes up, it's going to be too much time. So he just hold the book, goes on the top shelf, on top of the ladder, because he can't reach it. He stays there and he forgets himself. He forgets himself reading that book. I'm not exaggerating, this is his biography, Rahimahullah. Rahmatullah alayhi, he had made more than 30 Hajj. 30 Hajj. And he used to do Umrah, not just once, sometimes twice a year. Rahmatullah alayhi. As for Monday and Thursday, this is all the time. Every time he reads the hadith, أول من تسعر بهم النار, the first 3 categories of people who will be set ablaze in the hellfire are the ones the following. Number 1, the one is a reciter. Number 2, the one is a martyr. Number 3, the one who is a generous person who gives to charity. Those are the ones, the hadith says, that the first 3 people whom the fire will be set ablaze, because they were not true, genuine people. They were not doing it for the sake of Allah. They will be brought before Allah Azza wa Jal, and Allah will expose them. Right? They will be dragged into the hellfire. Now, the hadith was narrated by Shufay ibn Mati' al-Aslahi, and he said that I have asked Abu Hurairah to tell me a hadith which he had heard himself, nobody else. So he told him a hadith, and every time he says the hadith, he faints. Abu Hurairah. Now why does he faint? Because the iman in his heart makes him so, his heart so responsive. As soon as he hears the words, he can't cool himself. Shaykh al-Albani rahmatullah alayhi, he had reached that sort of stage. Every time he reads the hadith, he cries. Every time he reads the hadith, he cries. One day, he was in the car. While he was in the car, or in traffic light, somebody spotted him, running towards him and said, "You are the Shaykh al-Albani?" So Shaykh al-Albani is crying. He said, "Why are you crying?" He said, "The person, he needs to strive against himself. Otherwise he will be overconfident, self-conceited. When the people start to point to him, Shaykh, alim, knowledgeable, scholar." So Shaykh used to humble himself. Imam al-Albani rahmatullah alayhi, he said, "I know from my soul, from the beginning, when I was fixing the watches, I used to put the Mus'haf, the Quran, in front of me. And every time I have an opportunity, I will grab the Mus'haf while I'm fixing, and then I will start reading and memorize a portion. And every time I do that in my work, and I used to interpret the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ when he says, "Ta'ahadu hadha al-Quran," mean all the time observe, to keep that Quran with you. Observe, that means observe to read it. keep it all the time with you to read it. So he said, every time, just the Quran is in my reach. I take it, read as much as I can, memorize as much as I can. And I never had in my mind to use nasheed like these people. Nasheed, you know. All their time is nasheed. What is the latest nasheed? But it was in the Quran. Sheikh Salih al-Sohaib, Hafidhahullah, he says after he was in his class in the Masjid al-Nabawi, after Fajr, he said some people in his class had said something regarding Sheikh al-Albani to accuse him of something, and then he started to defend him. He said, myself, I have visited the Sheikh al-Albani rahmatullah alayhi in Jordan 2 months before he died in the hospital. And his blood cells, I think, what is that called, to be changing his blood? You give him a blood check. That is every 2 hours. But he's still there, sound-minded. So some of the people had introduced me to the Sheikh. She doesn't know him in terms of face-wise. Sheikh al-Albani, he said to the Sheikh, the Sheikh said to the person who was telling him who he is, he said, you telling me who he is? I know who he is, because as soon as he heard the name, he's the one who was always arguing regarding the fasting of Saturday and repeating the Jama'ah in the masjid. That means the adaptation of the Sheikh Sohaib is that no problem to fast Saturday in voluntary days, which the Sheikh al-Albani says no, and also that not to repeat the Jama'ah in the masjid, which Sohaib he says so. So I said, Ya Sheikh, Sohaib said, Ya Sheikh, I'm still holding to my opinion. So he says, Sheikh al-Albani grabbed my hand and he pressed onto it and he said, and this is when the Sheikh Sohaib, while he was narrating the story, was crying. He said, verily, I said, I could remember his grab to my hand till this moment. He said, this is what's supposed to be the students of knowledge. Don't blind follow me. Don't blind follow other people. You, what you think is a scholar, adopt it. That's what the Sheikh al-Albani used to teach his students. لا تكن تيميا. Well, don't be Ibn Taymiyyah, don't be such and such, don't be Albani. One day, Sheikh al-Albani, according to this person who is a student of knowledge, Sharif Ibrahim al-Hashim al-Amir, he says in his book, Juhud al-Allama al-Albani, the Allama Sheikh al-Albani's offering for this knowledge. In his book, he says, and also in giving advice to Jama'at al-Takfir, the Takfiri people, he says, when I met the Sheikh rahmatullah in a muhadara, in a lecture in his house, no, actually it was he said in one of the masajid in Jeddah, 1409, that's about 28 years ago. He said the Sheikh al-Albani, he said he had, astounded me a lot. The way that he had memory, sound, and when he reads, when he teaches, it's like reading from a book. One day I paid him a visit, and that was 6 years later. That was 1414, which is about 23 years ago. And it was in his house in Amman. I paid him a visit. And some of his students were there, and some from Kuwait, they came. One had asked him a question regarding the manhaj, the methodology of da'wah and political work as well. So the Sheikh started looking at the table. And he started giving an answer while his head is down and with no stuttering, nothing, didn't really say, except for just the right words. For 30 minutes, he did not raise up his head. And non-stop, no startling as well. So I stood up and I went to the table to see what is he reading from. I said, I didn't see a book, I didn't see anything. Said, SubhanAllah, 30 minutes non-stop, and all of it just like book he's reading from, because of the amount of knowledge that he's got. Rahmatullahi alayhi. Now, Shk.Abu al-Bani, who had died only 5 years ago, Shk.Abu al-Bani, I have seen myself, rahmatullahi alayhi, Shk.Abu al-Bani, paid him a visit in his house. The Sheikh, one of the scholars at his time, he was a student of Sheikh al-Albani. he says how his journey from Sufism to Salafism, this is 180 degrees basically. 180 degrees. He says, and I'm quoting here from his student Muhammad Ziyad al-Tukla. He says, my Shaykh Abdul Rahman al-Bani, he used to be very active in da'wah in Masjid Dimashq in Syria. This is before I met him in Saudi Arabia, Shaykh al-Bani. And he used to go with great scholars like Abu Hassan al-Nadawi, great scholar, Abu Hassan al-Nadawi in Dimashq, well known. And even Abu Hassan al-Nadawi used to say something good about Shaykh Abdul Rahman al-Bani. And also he had took from the Shaykh Taqiyuddin Hilali, from Shaykh al-Albani as well, took from him as well some knowledge. And he said that he as well had accompanied Shaykh Ahmad Shakir, the well-known muhaddith of Egypt. And both, they paid a visit to the Shaykh al-Albani. And every Shaykh was down with them. Shaykh al-Albani was really happy with Shaykh Ahmad Shakir, and Shaykh Ahmad Shakir was happy with the Shaykh al-Albani. Both. Then he says that Shaykh Albani, not Al-Albani, Shaykh Abdul Rahman al-Bani. I'm not going to confuse it because one is Abdul Rahman al-Albani and the Shaykh is Abdul Rahman al-Bani. So maybe this is a confusion here. I'm talking about the Shaykh al-Albani, not Shaykh al-Albani of our Shaykh that is the author. I'm talking about Shaykh Abdul, let's call him Shaykh Abdul Rahman, is the one who's a student who had gone from Sufism to Salafism. He says that I met Dr. Muhammad Amin al-Misri, Egyptian, and he had introduced me to the Shaykh al-Muhaddith, our Shaykh, which is a Shaykh Muhammad Nasir al-Din al-Albani. And he said that if I have remembered any favors that this man done for me, that he had introduced me to this Shaykh. Now, this Shaykh Abdul Rahman, he says, I have found with the Shaykh al-Albani something which I haven't found with any other scholars in Egypt. Especially in terms of the Sunnah and his keenness to make sure that he will filterize the religion from anything which is wrong, had crept into it from the hadith which is not authentic. And the time keeping. He's very precise about his time. I don't know anything from the, I know he had been accompanied lots of scholars. I didn't know any scholar like him regarding the usage of time. Then I asked him to give a class into my house, and he responded to that. And the first thing that we have studied with the Shaykh, Kitab al-Tawheed, which we're going to be studying inshallah on Wednesday. Shaykh Muhammad al-Wahhab, he said we used to read from that book. And then the Shaykh al-Albani used to learn to teach us the word, what does the author mean by this. And then he will teach us how to reap the benefit out of the book. So we started to meet onto that class. I used to as well study on another under the Shaykh Ahmad Kiftaro. Ahmad Kiftaro is a Sufi Shaykh. And I used to go to Ahmad Kiftaro, who used to teach in his masjid, Masjid al-Nur, and then after Asr, and then I used to go to my house because I had a class with the Shaykh al-Albani to come to teach us, and then there would be people to come there to learn. So after I finished the Asr, I used to run to my house, and I found even some of the guests have arrived already early, and then I will open them because there was no cars at that time. There's no transport. Shaykh al-Albani rahmatullahi alayhi, he says he never told me about Kaftar. He never told me about Sufism. He never talked about that. He never warned me. He just kept talking about the Sunnah, and he kept talking about the knowledge, about the methodology of Salafiyah, all of that. So, and also I have seen some differences, a lot different between the Shaykh al-Albani and the Shaykh Kaftar, which is the Sufi. First of all, Shaykh always, zahid, ascetic. And, never ever accepted somebody to kiss his hand. Whereas Kaftar, he would what? Stretch his hand for you to kiss it. Also, the Kaftar, he always liked people to put money in his hand. Like the Sufis, money. And even he says that about this Sufi man, he said, my Shk.Abu used to say, well, you know, you're just like coming to a physician, a doctor. You need to, to give him fees, isn't it? So when you learn, you have to give him some money in his hand. So this had actually a big influence on me and made me to stop to go to the Sufis. And I loved the Sheikh so much. And the Sufis used to even tell the followers of theirs that they are just like almost infallible, ma'soom. They don't make mistakes. Now, the students of this Abdul Rahman, he says, our Sheikh, he says to us all the time, a story he used to hear from his Sheikh, the Sufi man, the Kiftar, which he's heard it so many times, and every time he remembered that story after he became Salafi on the hand of our Sheikh Al-Albani, he used to cry. One of these stories I would like you to share with me. This is the story of, this is the Sufi man, he's saying that this Sheikh Kuftar, he said he used to tour the land, okay, and he used to even walk on the water. And one of his students, he insisted that he would accompany him, but the Sheikh would refuse. But after persistence, and all of course lies, always lies. So please put it in your short temporary memory. And after persisting and insisting, he had accepted with one condition. So this is our Sheikh Abdul Rahman, who had become Salafi. Every time he reads that, remember that story from his Sheikh, he cries. How naive he was to believe such a thing. So he said, after insisting on that Sheikh Sufi, he said, yeah, okay, student, come with me. And then they went. When they reached the water, the Sheikh, he said to him, I say, Ya Allah. And then I will walk on the water. And if you want to follow me, then you have to say, Ya Shaykhi. I will walk on the water, I say what? Ya Allah. And I will be walking. And if you want to follow me to walk on the water, you have to say what? Oh, Ya Shaykhi. Madad means give me Shaykhi, not oh Allah. It was a shirk. So, when they walked on the lake, of course it was light, remember that. On the lake, it's in the middle of the lake now, the shaitan came to give waswasa to the student. He said to him, you are saying Ya Shaykhi, and your Shaykh is saying Ya Allah. Why is that? Why don't you just say, directly, just like your Shaykh, Ya Allah? So the student listened to that shaitan. So he said, Ya Allah. As soon as he said it, he dropped into the water. And he started, Shaykh, help me, Shaykh, help me. So the Shaykh came, not just helped him, just he started insulting him, swearing at him, telling him off. Why have you done this? He said to him, you're not fit to say with your tongue, Ya Allah. Your tasbih should be, Ya Shaykhi. So the student made tawbah from Tawheed. Made tawbah from what? From monotheism. Made tawbah from Tawheed. And he went back to say, Ya Shaykhi, and then he was saved from being drowned. Subhanallah. So every time Albani, not the Sheikh Al-Albani, this man who had become, Salafi, he said, every time he remembers this, okay, because he had it from his Sheikh, Sufi Sheikh, so many times he used to get angry and used to cry so many times. How can I believe such a story? Now he says, now, the waswasa is shaitan. The shaitan make waswasa to put the person in tawheed. And the shirk became the tawheed. Subhanallah. The shirk became tawheed and tawheed became shirk. And I know for a fact, one of my friends, Shk.Abu, he went to America. And he said, he went to a masjid in Taraweeh prayer, where he's supposed to lead, but somehow he found somebody before him. He's from Egypt, this person, but he's a Sufi man. And he didn't know that he's Sufi. So he started to lead the prayer, and he made dua at the end, which is the last rak'ah. He made dua. And in his dua, he said, Allahumma ajirna min awhal al-tawheed. O Lord, save us from the quagmire of monotheism. You call it quagmire, like a muddy area, like a swamp. like filthy area of Tawheed. Subhanallah. So this is a Sufi man seeking refuge in Allah from the monotheism. So polytheism for them is what Allah has called for. This is the Shaykh, the Sufiya. So he says that Shaykh al-Albani took me from, alhamdulillah, from being a Sufi to being a Salafi. Now finally, before we end up the biography of Shaykh al-Albani, we have to talk about the story of the lost paper. What is the story of the lost paper? The story of the lost paper that made the Shaykh al-Albani this great scholar. It's a lost piece of paper. It made him this great scholar. Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah, he says, I wanted to, when I used to go to the Maktab al-Zahiriyah, I used to want to put, which is like an index. What are the name of the books in the Maktab al-Zahiriyah? But this is not my speciality. I don't have time for that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, if you want something to take place, He will lay the foundation of it. So He says, I was struck by a disease which is had struck made an infection in my eyes. And He's talking now 12 years before that He was to say. So He said 12 years ago. So the doctor, he said to me, I have to take 6 months relaxation because of this infection in my eye. I have to abandon reading, and I have to abandon to as well to write, and I have to abandon as well to fix the watches, because fixing the watch, there's a lot of effort for 6 months. So I started implementing his nasiha, his advice at the beginning. But for 2 weeks, I couldn't hold myself. So I started talking to myself and beautifying for myself. Well, this boring holiday, I'm doing nothing. So I said, okay, I remembered a treatise is being written, it's called Dhamm al-Malahi. Al-Hafid ibn Abi Dunya, Dhamm al-Malahi, which is the blame to the criticism of music and instruments of music. So I remember that treatise and I wanted to check it. So I wanted first of all to find the original manuscript of it and then to check it. So I remember it was not being printed yet. So it's still in the world of manuscripts. So I said, what is wrong if I just ask somebody to go and write it for me? To take that down. You don't have a photocopy at that time. You have to write it down, the manuscript. So he goes to the library and write it down for me while I'm having my boring holiday. So when he went to write it, he came back and he said to me that verily there is something missing there. So I said to him, okay, just copy all of it, write it down, and then I will see. So when he gave it to me, I saw exactly what he said is right. Actually, there's 4 pages missing from that, and it's in the middle of that manuscript is missing. So I said to myself, how can I find those 4 pages which are missing? Now, this manuscript is being put into a big, massive volume, which is under the title Majami'. Majami' means collections of number of treatises. And in each one of them, the number of treatises, so many of them. And it's got different colors, different sizes. It's not just one, because it's been written different sizes, and it's been sewn together. So I said, maybe the person who sewn that treatise, he did not put it in the right place. The 4 pages being sewn in a different book or a different volume. So I was really enthusiastic to go and look for that. And I forgot what was the disease of mine and the situation of my health. So I started saying, I think it's not going to be affecting my health. I'm not really actually doing that much reading. I'm just going looking for that paper. I'm not reading. So I started now reading in those mujalladat, the volumes in the maktaba. And every time I see a title there, I would put it down from those. And subhanallah, titles after a title after a title. And I went into the whole volume where the letter, where the treatise was there, which is 150 volumes inside there. So I said, maybe, I didn't find it. Then I said, maybe it was being something. Let's ask for the door to be open. It's hot. Sorry about being cold there. I have to have some. Just a bit and then close it, alright? So I had to talk to myself. Maybe it was different sections. I went to the hadith section. And I was saying to myself, I'm going to find those 4 pages that were missing. So I read 10,000 manuscript. And I still didn't find it. I still thought to myself, but I looked back and I found that I've been writing lots of treasure from there. Something that nobody knew about it. The scholars, our grandfathers from the scholars had left us treasure there. So now, for the second time, I was really enthusiastic now to go read it again. Based upon what I have found, and I find as well, to find something which will help me in my speciality, which is hadith. So it's like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was preparing me. So I read the whole of those books again for the second time. And still couldn't find that page. And then there was the third stage, which is to study them, not just like scanning in details. And to take the hadith from them by the chains. So he studied them for the third time. So I want to read down 30,000 manuscripts. Again, and until I made, he says, 40 volumes, his own. Each volume has 400 pages. Each page has a hadith and all the masadr, the sources where the hadith come from. So 400 volumes. Each volume got 400 pages. Each page got 1 hadith. So how many hadith it took that to read? Nobody's a mathematician here. 16,000 hadith. 40 volumes. Each volume got 400 pages. Each page got 1 hadith. With all the listings of the sources of that hadith. Where he could find it. And he said, this is where my treasure, which I support my books and project when I make. So whenever I make a book or something and refer, I take from what? From my treasure. Those 40 volumes. This is the treasure that the Shaykh had found in those books. That's what made him the scholar. Rahmatullahi alayhi. His advice to Shaykh al-Albani to all the ummah. After Inna alhamdulillah, he says, فَوَصِيَّتِي لِكُلِّ Muslim. My advice to every Muslim on the face of the earth, especially our brothers who are sharing with us, belonging to this da'wah, which is blessed, da'wah of Salafiyya, da'wah al-Kitabi wa Sunnah, upon the Salaf, manhaj, methodology, I counsel them, I prompt them, I advise them. That is, me and yourselves, to have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is what the Prophet ﷺ said. First of all. Number 2, to increase gaining knowledge which is beneficial. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهِ وَيُعَلِّمُكُمُ اللَّهِ. Fear Allah and Allah will teach you. Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 282. And to know the righteous deeds. That is, which is the one for us. That is, it will not go outside from the book and the sunnah and upon the salaf manhaj, the predecessors. And they should get along with their knowledge, the implementation of that knowledge. So, the implementation of the knowledge is important. Otherwise, it will be a hujjah against you. It will be something against you. And otherwise, it will be hujjah for them, inshallah. يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. That there is no money or sons will help on that day except for what whom that came to Allah with a clean heart. Then I would warn them against participating with the others who are too many, who had drifted from the Salafi line with lots of things and lots of issues. And the word which collected all of that is al-khuruj on against the Muslims and against the jama'ah of the Muslims. For verily we all the time commanded with what the Prophet ﷺ used to say in the hadith al-sahih, وَكُونُوا عِبَادَ اللَّهِ إِخْوَانًا. And be the slaves of Allah, brothers. And we should be very kind. Rifq, kindness in our da'wah to the ones who are opposing us. Because, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, "Ud'u ila sabili rabbika bil hikmah." So we should be like what Allah says always and forever. Ud'u, call to the sake of Allah in wisdom. Wal maw'idatil hasana, and reason with them with the good reasoning. وَجَادِلْهُمْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. Surah Al-Nahl, verse 125. And the first person who deserves that we should really reason with them in the best of the ways, or the ones who have so much enmity against us. They dispute with us a lot. We should be more keen to be what? Kind with them. Because this is our creed. This is our principle. So we do not combine between the heaviness of the haqq and also the heaviness of our rudeness in calling them to the haqq. At least we could lubricate that heavy haqq with something which is nice. But to add to the heavy haqq your rudeness or your harshness in your style, that's not going to be good. So I would like from all my brothers in the whole of the Islamic land that they should abide themselves with those principles of Islam. And they have to seek the sincerity. That means the pleasure of Allah alone. They don't want anything from the dunya. And inshallah this will be enough for you. That's what the Shaykh rahmatullah said. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Shaykh Al-Albani, he had made more than 200 books. Rahmatullah alayhi. I'm not going to mention those books. They're listed, you're welcome to take them. More than 200 books. Books, or as well takhrij. That means he had made sure that the hadith are to be checked up. Rahmatullahi alayhi. Right. The wasiyah which he had written and he left before he died, it's only 3 points. I'm going to mention them. He said, I advise my wife and my children and every person who loved me that if he had heard about my death, to call Allah for forgiveness for me, and they should not wail or raise up their voice. Number 2, they should hasten the process of burying me. They should not go and tell my relatives and my brothers, except for the ones who are able to prepare me. And the one who makes a wash for me is Izzat Khadr. Abu Abdullah is neighbor, my neighbor, and my sincere friend. And he would choose whoever he likes to help him in washing me. And by the way, the Shaykh Izzat Khadr, he himself died. Rahmatullah alayhi. Number 3, and I choose to be buried in the closest place to where I live. So the ones who are going to carry my corpse, my body, they will not be pushed to put it into the car or into transport. So then the people will all mount their as well cars. I don't want that to happen. And I to be buried in a graveyard which is old, which more likely that it will be left and will be not dug again. Look at that. And the Shaykh was buried in a very old cemetery, and it was next to his house, only about 5 minutes walk. So he was carried from the house, 5 minutes walk to that. No cars, everything's been fulfilled. And it was left, that graveyard is in the middle of the heart of Amman. And it's been, Shaykh Al-Albani was the last person to be buried there. And they walked, he's not allowed to be, even he was not allowed to bury more people in it. But the Shaykh Al-Albani, they gave him what? Green card. Subhanallah. Straight away Allah facilitated his burial. 9:30. So and he was buried there, and that graveyard the cemetery was not protected by a fence. Yarhamukallah. Was not protected by a fence. The goats and the sheep used to go on it. So after the Shaykh Al-Albani was buried there, it was protected, alhamdulillah, with a fence. And it was locked and was, mashallah. And lots of people had lots of as well visions in their dreams, whom their parents were buried already in that cemetery. One of them is a sheikh. He told us that I've seen a vision. I've seen my father. He was so happy. He said, "Oh, got the Shaykh Al-Albani with us." It's a vision in his cemetery. He said, "Oh, the Shaykh Al-Albani came to them." And those visions, alhamdulillah, these are like tidings. But of course, we don't really depend upon them to say that the person is in paradise or not. Right. Sheikh as well, he says in his last will, testimony, he says as well, I also want my library, which has got hundreds of books, thousands of books, all of it, whether it's the manuscript, whether it's being the one which is being printed, whether it's being the one who is being as well photocopied, or the one which is in my handwriting, all of it to be transferred to Al-Jami'a Al-Islamiyya in Medina. And it was fulfilled. Can I just have this wire, please? So it was fulfilled, and all of it was transferred by plane, of course, all the way to Medina. He says, because I've got a very good memory, nice memory there, and it was upon the book and the Sunnah, the Manhaj al-Salaf al-Salih, and I used to be a teacher there. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for those people to benefit from it, and to benefit me as well from their, dua and their ikhlas. Rahmatullah al Shaykh. And the Shaykh, as I said, he died in the year for 1420, which is 1999. That is about, how many years now? 17 years ago. Rahmatullahi ala Shaykh. Right, we go now for the last 10 minutes. And there is no, inshallah, class after the prayer. But I would like to make this following announcement that the class from next week will start at 8 o'clock. Inshallah. So we'll have some before the Maghrib, and then after the Maghrib, and inshallah when the Maghrib pushes forward, we will finish by Maghrib. Okay, so don't worry, I'm not going to hold you all the way up to the Isha. But we're going to start at 8 because we wanted to finish as early. Is that okay? Any objections? Any suggestions? Don't worry. Okay, careful. Right. Let's go to the book now. A bit more. Open and then close. I'm hot. Can't breathe. I'll tell you what, next time I'll put my table there. Inshallah, and then everybody, I don't mind. Inshallah. Because when some people it's cold, for me, I don't know, I've got some temperature which is really, my thermometer is not really working right, or maybe your thermometer is not working right. One of them, but I feel hot. Yeah, but it's not the fan, it's like I feel like the oxygen is getting less. See? Hypoxia. Right, we'll start from the beginning of the book, and the book that you're going to have is this one. I'm going to start from the real beginning. This one, of course, is not for, this is the biography. We've done lots more than that, alhamdulillah. Go to this introduction. So we're going to read from the introduction, and we have given a glimpse, if you remember, about 3 books. We had Asl al-Sifa, Sifa, and Talkhis. Asl al-Sifa, the original book, which is not the one with the much bigger than that, and the Sifa, which the Sheikh took from it, and then lastly, which is the concise abbreviation. So we ask, which one was the last to be printed out? Put your finger up, you know. Yes? Which was the one last to be printed out? Yes? Al-Asl. The first one which was written, the last one was to be printed out. And it was printed out after the Sheikh's death. It was printed out after the Sheikh's death. So Al-Asl was the first to be written, the last to be printed out. And the one which has been taken from it is called Sifat al-Salah, not the Asl, Sifat al-Salah. Right, can anybody tell me what is the concise, something that the concise wrote, which is the abbreviation, abbreviated, had made extra on top of the others? Fadal? The addition of course, we took lots of ahadith. The ahadith is not there, the proofs are not there, but we added to each one of those acts, whether it is sunnah, wajib, or fard, or shart, or rukn. So this is a very important addition. Right. So I'm going to be, every time there is something I'm going to add, I will add to it, inshallah. Now we don't have the, I'm going to get a book for myself as well, to make sure that I'm with you as well. Okay. Okay, let's just read. And let me just be with you. Go ahead.
Introduction. Praise be to Allah, who made prayer compulsory on His slaves and ordered them to establish it and perform it well, who linked success and felicity to humility in prayer, who made it the certain to distinguish between Iman and Kufr, and who made it a restrainer from shameful and unjust deeds. Prayer and peace be upon our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who was addressed in the words of the Exalted. وَأَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكَ الذِّكْرَ لِلنَّاسِ لِتُبَيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ وَنُزِّلَ إِلَيْهِمْ
وَأَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكَ الذِّكْرَ لِتُبَيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ مَا نُزِّلَ إِلَيْهِمْ
مَا نُزِّلَ إِلَيْهِمْ
Surah Al-Nahl, verse 44.
وَلَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ.
This is from there. Alam tafakkur is there, but not in my. Now.
Translation of the meaning of the verse in English. And we have sent down to you the message that you may explain clearly to the people what is sent for them. And who fully carried out this task. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The prayer was one of the most important things which he explained to the people verbally and practically.
Now, if you have noticed, the Shaykh Al-Albani rahmatullah alayh, when he had made this book, it was one of the first books that he had made. And we said it's a revolutionary book. But you have noticed something. What is that? Yes? He did not start with Khutbat al-Hajj, which was the case all the time, because this was from the first early writings of the Shaykh rahmatullah alayh. And he's got a little treatise book that's called Khutbat al-Hajj, in which he had traced the origin of that Khutbat al-Hajj, which is Inna alhamdulillah. After which he had found out that the best to revive from the Sunnah that the Shaykh had revived is Khutbat al-Hajj. So if he had that in his mind and if he had that in his knowledge, he would have started that book with what? Khutbat al-Hajj. That is why the Asl, talking about the Asl, which was printed what? Which the Shaykh Al-Albani had added. The Shaykh Al-Albani, he had the Asl with him. He had written it already, but he never printed it out. So every time his knowledge goes more, he will add to that Asl. From the Asl, he's taken that book, but that book, had number of prints out, number of prints. This first introduction was kept there. But there was other introduction for each for each print out, new print, there will be Khutbat Inna alhamdulillah. But the Shaykh in the origin, in the Asl, he added Khutbat al-Hajj. Rahmatullah. In the Asl, he added Khutbat al-Hajj. So Inna alhamdulillah, nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu was in the Khutbat al-Hajj. And then he starts with the words that you have just started now, which is Alhamdulillah alladhi farada as-salata ala ibadihi wa amarahu bi iqamatiha wa husni ada'iha, to the rest. Right. So alhamdulillah, that we understand now, the Shaykh, if he had the knowledge that he had later on, he would have put Khutbat al-Hajj there instead of starting with this wording, which is Alhamdulillah alladhi farada as-salata ala ibadihi, and so on and so forth. And no problem to start with that, but at that time, people, they don't know anything about Khutbat al-Hajj. They have abandoned it completely. That's why the Shaykh was reviving that important sunnah. That is a Prophet of Allah, every time he gives class, most of the time, and especially if he dresses as well for marriage, he will start with Khutbat al-Hajj. On the pulpit for the Jum'ah, Khutbat al-Hajj. Yes, sometimes he would want to start with not Khutbat al-Hajj, but as I said, the norm became is not to say Khutbat al-Hajj. So the Shaykh had made it the other way around. Most of the people, they start with Khutbat al-Hajj. But unfortunately, even Khutbat al-Hajj, they tampered with it. So they add things with it, or they subtract things from it, because again, either the lack of knowledge, or maybe actually they don't understand what that is. And manhaj is to add and to subtract from the word of the Prophet of Allah is not allowed. Prophet of Allah, he said, إِذَا حَدَّثْتُكُمْ بِحَدِيثٍ فَلَا تَزِدُنَّ عَلَيْهِ. If I say to you a hadith, don't put extra. إِذَا حَدَّثْتُكُمْ بِحَدِيثٍ فَلَا تَزِدُنَّ عَلَيْهِ. Don't put extra words. Not one word. Not to even change a word. Can anybody tell me an example from the student knowledge? Yalla. Example? Yes. Which one? Hadith was? Yes. No, I'm talking about example that the Prophet of Allah, he told a person off from the companions because he changed. Yes? Yes, he said it, but which hadith? Whose hadith belonged to who? Which companion? Who's the companion being told off? Huh? Al-Bara ibn Azim, radiyallahu anhu. Al-Bara ibn Azim, he was learning the dua of going to the bed, to sleep. So the Prophet of Allah is teaching him. اللهم أسلمت نفسي إليك ووجهت وجهي إليك وفوضت أمري إليك رغبة ورهبة إليك لا منجا منك إلا إليك اللهم إني آمنت بكتابك الذي أنزلت وبنبيك الذي أرسلت. So he started now to repeat after the Prophet of Allah. He did the same thing, but when he reached the word اللهم إني آمنت بكتابك الذي أنزلت وبنبيك, he said وبرسولك الذي أرسلت. He changed the word نبي to رسول. Nabi means a prophet and Rasul means a messenger. I mean, who's going to care about that word? It's just the same. But the Prophet of Allah, he said like this, say بِنَبِيِّكَ الَّذِي أَرْسَلْتَ. Why are you changing? Say that word. أَتُوتِ بِنَبِيِّكَ. Don't say لِرَسُولِكَ الَّذِي أَرْسَلْتَ. إِذَا حَدَّثْتُكُمْ بِحَدِيثٍ فَلَا تَزِدُونَ عَلَيْهِ. Prophet of Allah's words coming from where? From Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't add, don't subtract, don't change. So, if it is the case, if the Prophet of Allah, he used to say, إِنَّ الْحَمْدَ لِلَّهِ نَحْمَدُهُ وَنَسْتَعِينُهُ وَنَسْتَغْفِرُهُ وَنَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنْ شُرُورِ أَنفُسِنَا. To the end, a person comes in here. إِنَّ الْحَمْدَ لِلَّهِ نَحْمَدُهُ وَنَسْتَعِينُهُ وَنَسْتَغْفِرُهُ وَنَسْتَهْدِيهِ وَنَتُوبُ إِلَيْهِ. Where is the addition coming from? Why do you have to add? Why do you want to add? Are you better than the Prophet ﷺ? No, you're not better than the Prophet ﷺ. Nobody would say that he would say, I am better than the Prophet, but that's what you're saying. And he keeps doing it all the time. وَنَسْتَهْدِيهِ وَنَتُوبُ إِلَيْهِ. Why do you have to add? Stick to the khutbah al-hajjah, the words of the Prophet ﷺ. And I think I've got 2 minutes now left. And I would like you just to read the last paragraph. Yeah, just read, finish from you left it, where you left it.
The prayer was one of the most important things which he explained to the people, verbally and practically.
After that?
Even praying on the pulpit once, standing, bowing and prostrating, and then saying to them, I have done this so that you may follow me and learn my prayer. He obligated us to copy him in his prayer, saying, pray as you have seen me pray. He also gave the good tidings to whoever prayed like him, that such a person has a covenant with Allah that he will enter him into the garden, saying, there are 5 prayers which Allah mighty and sublime has made compulsory. He who performs ablution well for them, prays them at their proper times, and is complete in their bowings, prostrations and humility, he has a guarantee from Allah that he will forgive him. But he who does not do so has no guarantee from Allah. If he wishes, he will forgive him, or if he wishes, he will punish him.
Well, here stop. So, Prophet of Allah, what did he do? He prayed on top of the pulpit. The pulpit is not like that, because we pray on top of this pulpit, nobody can see, and he can't pray even. The pulpit was not like that. The pulpit was just like simple 3 steps. It goes from the front. Just 3 steps, and it had a platform. And that platform was not enough for him to make prostration. So he used to, he went to the top of it, and Allahu Akbar, and then after ruku', Sami Allah, then he goes down, reverse, with his face towards the Qibla, and then he would put prostration at the bottom on the floor, and then second prostration, then up again, then the second rak'ah. And he finished the prayer, and after that he said, he did this so that you follow me, that you learn from me. وَلِتَعَلَّمُوا صَلَاتِي. So you could learn my prayer. And the Prophet ﷺ done it, and he said that even those movements in my prayer did not jeopardize the prayer, because I'm teaching you. And also he had said to us, صَلُّوا كَمَا رَأَيْتُمُونِي أُصَلِّي. Pray like you have seen me pray. We haven't seen the Prophet of Allah definitely praying. That hadith was for the companions, because they saw him. But for the ones who did not see him like us, we have everything being told to us by narrations. Every single movement of the Prophet of Allah in the prayer was handed down to us with authentic chains, so we know exactly how the Prophet of Allah had prayed, and that is why the title of the book, كَأَنَّكَ تَرَاهَا, is like you are seeing it. So it's being described, it's like you are seeing it. You haven't seen the Prophet of Allah, but it's being described in a way, it's like كَأَنَّكَ تَرَاهَا. Then the one who had prayed 5 daily prayers, then he makes wudu and he prays into the time, makes the ruku' complete, sujood complete, khushu' complete. He has a covenant upon Allah Azza wa Jal that He will forgive him. And he who doesn't, he hasn't got a covenant. But he's not a kafir. You see that? From the proof, he's not a kafir. If he doesn't do it, he's still a criminal. If he's lazy, he's a criminal because he hasn't got a covenant. If Allah wishes to what? Punishes him. And if Allah wishes what? To forgive him. He's not a kafir. And then inshallah we'll continue next week. بإذن الله. جزاكم الله خير. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك. أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت.